All right. So in video 2, we looked at demand in depth. We looked at how the relationship between price and the quantity demanded um, changes. And we also looked at some of the non-price factors that affect quantity demanded. So in this video, video 3, we're going to do something similar on the supply side. Okay. So remember, the supply side, the relationship is between the price of the good. So the price is the common factor between demand and supply. But in this case, we are going to look at different prices. What is the quantity supplied by producers? Okay, that's what we look at. And you can see, as a general principle, you will see that a producer, you, the decision maker, or the company that's making this products or service, tend to produce more as the price increases. Okay, that's the general principle here, and we'll get back to this in a second. But more importantly, just like with the case with demand, there are a set of factors that are non-price that influence supply. Okay, how much you, the producer, is willing and able to supply to the market has components that are non-price that influences it, and we're going to take a look at that, okay, in this video. Okay, so they are technology, input prices, prices of goods related to production, future expectations, and number of producers. Let's take a look at each one of them. Okay, first is technology. So the idea here is that technology does make a difference in how much a producer is willing to produce into the market at a given price. Okay, so the easiest example that we can give here is with fracking. So what is essentially fracking? Fracking was a new mechanism, new technological innovation by which the companies that were doing fracking were able to produce more more gasoline into the market, right? So nothing happened with the price of the gasoline in the market for this to happen. It just happened that there was a better technology that was able to produce more fuel into the market. Okay, so that made a huge difference in the quantity supplied to the market. There was a big increase in the amount of oil that was being pumped into the global supply. Okay, so technology makes a big difference in, especially innovative technology makes a difference in the quantity that a producer is willing to produce at any given price. Okay, so that's technology change. What else could affect the quantity supplied by a producer beyond prices? Input prices. So we should clarify here, the price that we are talking about when we were talking about demand and supply is the price of your final product in the market. Okay, that's if we go back to the pizza example, the price that we are talking about with demand and supply originally was the price of a slice of pizza in the market. Now what input prices is the price of making your whatever materials or labor or any of these things that you used to make the product. So for example, with the pizza company, right, if the price of the dough that you buy for pizza, or if the price of the tomato that you use significantly goes up, there is a good possibility that you might have to reduce the number of pizza that you are supplying into the market, especially if you don't think you can pass on that price increase input price to the customer, right? You might have to reduce the number of tomatoes you purchase, which in turn might reduce the number of pizzas you might supply. Do you see the difference? Nothing changed in the market in terms of the market price of the pizza. Just that you had an event on the backside that affected the input prices, which could then impact the number of units you're willing and able to produce. Okay, so again, we are looking at non-market price items that might influence how much units you're willing and able to produce. Okay, third one, prices of related goods. We looked at the same concept in demand too. Does the price of a related good make a difference to how many units of your product you're willing to produce in this case? And there is a good possibility that could happen too. We can look at, and there are two terms here, substitutes and complementary goods. So first the definition, right? Two goods are substitutes in production if the same inputs can be used to produce either of the goods, such as land for different agricultural crops. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's say you are a farmer and you could do either corn or wheat on the same land. Okay, let us say the market for corn has gone up significantly. There is a good possibility that even in times where you would have normally had wheat, you would now produce more corn. Doesn't that then mean that you have reduced the supply of wheat to the market? Nothing has changed on the price of the wheat in the market. See that? Nothing has changed for the price of wheat in the market, but you still reduced the amount of wheat that you're producing into the market, right? Because there's a substitute good which had a big impact. That's the concept of substitute good. Same for complementary goods, right? Two goods are complementary in production if the production of one is a byproduct of the production of the other. There's a possible, the leather and beef could be one, right? Those are complementary goods. And if there is more demand for one of the items there's a good chance that the other might be produced more as well, right? They're both coming from the same sources. Okay. All right. So that's the third one. Again, the point here, I want to emphasize this again. You always start with understanding the relationship between market price of the product you're producing and how many units of your goods or service you are willing to produce at various prices, market prices. Then you add on the intelligence around non-price factors that might impact how many units that you are willing and able to produce, right? Those are the things that we are talking about here. Future expectations. If producers expect price to increase in the future, they may supply less output now than without those expectations. Opposite could happen if producers expect price to decrease. What's a good example? Let us say you are the marketing manager of JCPenney, right? What behavior could you expect if there is a event gonna happen? Say a fall fashion line is going to happen. Okay, what could happen to your supply of your existing clothing products because you know there is a fall fashion line coming up? Very likely you're willing to do what? Supply more to the market now of your existing line, right? Because you know that in the fall, when the new fall lines comes out, your products that you're trying to sell now would not sell at all. So nothing changed on the price of your product in the market now. You are still willing to bring more to the market, supply more to the market, because there is a future scenario where those could be selling less. The same could happen on the other side too. Okay, you could sell less if there is a scarcity or something that's going to come down the line that might expect prices to change, go up in the future. Okay, so future expectations of managers are an important component that determines how many units of your products or service are you willing to bring to the market. Okay, and finally, I believe that's the last one, number of producers. The number of producers influence the total supply of a product at any given price. It's very true, right? So, so many examples, but the easiest is what happened to all the toy producers in the United States? Over a period of time, the number of producers in China just significantly increased. Okay, and then the number of producers in the United States just went down because there is only a certain number, a certain total supply of a product that the market could absorb. And of course, because China is coming out with a lower price, you are not, even if even if nothing changed for your product quality or any of those things, you are being pushed out of the market because of because of an increase in the toy producers in the world. Okay, so that is an important factor too. Is there an increase in the number of producers who are producing something similar? You have to consider that to determine how much you're willing to produce, right? You're willing to produce less because you're not going to be able to make it. Okay, all right. So to summarize, just like with demand, supply has a relationship between price in the market and the quantity you as a producer is willing and able to supply. Unlike demand though, the relationship is in the same direction, meaning when price increases, the quantity supplied increases as well. Okay, but a good manager will start here to look at price and quantity differences to understand how much they will be willing and able to produce. They will also look at some of the non-price factors. They are technology, right? Makes a big difference when there's a new breakthrough technology in how much product or service you're willing to supply to the market. Input prices, right? Sometimes the input prices goes up, your ability and willingness to produce could go down in the number of units. Price of goods and related in production. Sometimes, like we saw in the farmer's example, your willingness and ability to produce one crop might go significantly in a different direction, even with nothing happening to that crop's price, just because there's more profit from a different crop. Future expectation, right? If there is a new line of clothing coming, you might be willing to supply out more of your existing line now, although nothing changed in terms of pricing for the existing line. Number of producers. If there is a significant increase in the number of producers in the market, your ability and willingness to supply the same amount may be in question. So you might have to change the quantity that you supply into the market. Okay, so there you are. So in 3 videos, we have looked at the basics of micro and macro. We looked at the basics of demand and supply and a little bit on equilibrium. And then we went in depth into demand and non-price factors influencing demand. We also looked at supply and non-price factors influencing supply. That will be it for week 1. So you have 3 videos. I'll post some questions for you to think about. There will be a short quiz that you can take. And then when we meet in person, we will talk about the equilibrium issues. We will talk about how equilibrium moves when demand and supply moves around, and then we will take it from there. Okay, all right. Thank you.